You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, trying. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo on a Thursday, October 2nd. Thank you guys so much for joining us. However, you're checking out the show. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. We thank you for that. If you've subscribed, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please do so ASAP. Help us spread the word about what we're doing each and every weekday at 10 a.m. Also, we're live on X. X has been very, very good to us. Over 4,000 people viewed the show yesterday on X, which is extremely exciting. So thank you. If you're watching on X, give us your feedback, all that kind of stuff on that platform as well. Also, you can check out the show every day on the podcasting platforms as well. So Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Podbean, however you get your podcasts, go ahead and put in Off the Air with Matt Randazzo and check out the show each and every night. We talk about going for a workout, yard work, or however you're doing it, on your way home from work, on your way to school the next morning, however you do it, however you listen. Thank you for listening. We appreciate all the support that we've gotten for the show so far. And then also we want to thank our viewers in Central Iowa. Great feedback from them as well. You can check us out in Central Iowa every evening as well. We're excited to be there. A lot to get to, a lot of great stuff we've had for the first 2 weeks that we've had the Central Iowa viewers on board with us as well. And today's another great place to start. So another great show we'll talk about here in just a second. Yesterday's show was fantastic. If you missed it, go check it out from yesterday. Tim DeWhite was on the show, Iowa legend, talking about return game and punts and kickoffs and what he sees from Caden Weegan and all those kind of things. So great to talk to him about that. We talked about the current Iowa Hawkeyes, Kirk Ferentz and the legacy that he left at the University of Iowa, or is leaving, I should say, at the University of Iowa. And of course, some, speaking of legends, some Hayden Fry stories along the way as well. So if you missed Tim DeWhite, go check that out. Also yesterday, as the show started, we got the breaking news that Iowa picked up a 5-star basketball commitment, and then boom, Kyle Huseman from the Hawkeye Report, who does a fantastic job covering Iowa women's basketball, was on the show talking about that as well. So great interview, great thoughts from him when it came to McKenna, when it comes to the Iowa team this year. We also looked ahead at what might be next when it comes to recruiting, the little Fever talk, little WNBA talk. So we covered it all. If you missed Kyle yesterday, go check that out as well. So a lot of fun. Also, our Nest Guest contest is up and running. We'll talk about that in a second. But Mark Nessler yesterday as well. Some baseball talk. A bunch of good things yesterday. So go, if you missed yesterday's show, wait till the end of today's show. Don't go running now. But go check out yesterday's show as well. Heck, check out the shows from all week, because it's been another fun, busy week here on OTA. Coming up today, Iowa basketball practice has started in Iowa City. We had JoshSash on the show, an assistant coach for the Hawkeyes when they first got the job and moved into town. I recently had Josh on the Hawkeye Tailgate show the Iowa pregame show for football. And I wanted to catch back up with them because so many things going on. They're at practice, the moving and all that kind of stuff is done, and now they're back to playing basketball, what they're here to do, coaching basketball, doing basketball. So talking to him about what they've looked like so far, what the schedule looks like, some secret scrimmage stuff, a bunch of things to get to when it comes to Iowa basketball. So JoshSash will join us in just a few minutes. Really excited about that. We talked about the Illini on Monday and their big victory over USC. Ken Prince was on Monday. Go check that show out too. But we haven't talked about the Illini since, so I figured we got to preview the big rivalry game between Illinois and Purdue. And I put the quotes up because I think it's stupid that that's one of the protected rivalries, and we're sitting here in the Quad Cities and we can't get Iowa and Illinois every year. So I digress. But we'll talk with Jim Mattson about, last week's victory, but then moving ahead to this week and what we can expect with Illinois and Purdue, a trap game maybe with Ohio State on the horizon the next week. So Jim Mattson, also Jim on his way down to Illinois Basketball Media Day. That's today. So we'll have some insight from him when it comes to Illinois basketball as well. So Jim Mattson coming up later in hour number 1. In hour number 2, people have been furious because every Wednesday we have Ty Taylor, and yesterday was so busy. So never fear, Ty Taylor is here in the second half of the show. We'll break down the Three Rivers, one of the best conferences in our area right now when it comes to high school football. And last week was the big week, and we had 2 huge showdowns and 2 huge winners and 2 not really close games. So we'll talk about that and then look ahead to what's to come on Friday night. Not just in our area, but in the TRAC specifically. So Ty Taylor coming up in hour number 2. And I gave an apology to Jeremy Adolphson and Monmouth Roseville on Monday for picking against them. We'll see if Ty does the same. We'll see if Ty can follow the lead of the old guy or how he wants to do things. So all that coming up later in the show. Also, the Cubs are get the cliches out. Winner moves on, loser goes home, backs against the wall, must-win game, do or die. All the cliches fit for this afternoon. The Cubs lose yesterday 3-0. So it's now the Padres and Cubs game 3 today. 4:08 first pitch is what I think it is. I know it's 4 or 4:08, but my kids love that. They think it's at 2 still. I don't know if they realize that. So they're going to be thrilled when they get out of school. They wanted me to take them out of school today and let them, watch the Cubs game. And I didn't know if I was being a good parent or bad parent by saying no, go to school. And I think I'm being a good parent. I'm good with like the NCAA tournament stuff. If it wasn't a wild card series, then maybe if it was an LDS or an NLCS or whatever, a World Series, it would be played in the afternoon. But anyways, I would think about it, consider it, but they'll be thrilled. A 4:00 game. We'll talk about the Cubs coming up. As I mentioned, they lost 4-0 yesterday. Manny Machado, the big blow, 2-run homer to give them a 3-0 lead. Cubs bats were silenced by really good starting pitching by Dylan Cease. And then you get into that bullpen for San Diego, and they got a lead. They are tough. They are really, really good. We knew that coming into the series. They showed it in game 2. So 3 winner-take-all game 3s today. We'll talk more about them later in the show as well. So a little bit of baseball to get to later in the show. Some reminders. We mentioned Nest Guests. The Nest Guest contest is up and running. It's on my social medias as well, so you can check those out. Get in the contest. Check out how you did last week, all that kind of stuff. But of course, the winner gets Hungry Hobo, some free Hungry Hobo as well. So get signed up, get logged in, all those kind of things. You can go to WQAD Matt Randazzo on Facebook. And yes, I mentioned it yesterday. I cannot figure out how to change the name in my Facebook. I've tried for months, trust me, months. So if anybody knows, let me know. I've been trying and I've been working at it with several people, but you can go to Facebook, see the link there. Also, it's on my X account as well. Mark Nessler shares it. It's a link. If you need it, you can direct message me and I'll send it to you. You click it, you sign up. Thank you to Hungry Hobo for supporting Nest Guest. It's back after 37 years of doing it at a high level. We've had 6 years off of it. Nest is having a blast. I'm having a blast. You can check out our article as well, kind of giving our picks as well. It's Nest versus myself. The loser takes a pie in the face. So hopefully it's not me once again this year as well. So check that out. Off the Air is on the road tomorrow. We'll go to Browning Field, Moline High School. Moline playing some of the best football in the entire state. They welcome rival Rock Island. It should be a blast. So check out tomorrow's show as well. And then, of course, tomorrow, the View from the West Instant Reacts podcast. Make sure you're checking that out as well when you want to get all your high school football needs. 10:15 every Friday night. View from the West Instant Reacts podcast. Ton of fun. Always enjoy it. Mitch out of town this week, so I'm going to step up and have maybe a bigger role. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll figure that out here as the weeks and days go along. So a lot to get to on today's show. Really excited about it. It's October. Football's on everybody's mind, but basketball is right around the corner, which made me think I got to reach out and talk to somebody about Iowa basketball. So joining me now for the third time already, I haven't done the show for more than a year, and JoshSash is back once again, assistant basketball coach at the University of Iowa. I say third time. This is the second time on the show. You were on the Hawkeye Tailgate show a few weeks ago on the radio, which was fantastic as well. Thank you for doing it, my friend. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. I think the last time I was actually on the show, you probably saw like boxes in the background of my of my office. It was like the first couple of weeks I got here, so we're trying to still settle in a little bit. Don't really have. I've gotten some harassment from some of our players and some of our staff. I don't really have a lot of decor hanging up in here yet. So I got to get something going. Something like you got in the background.
I was gonna say I felt like what you do, Coach, is you talk about it on air, and then people send you stuff. Like I complained about not having certain helmets, and people will bring them to you. So this is Iowa fans, send Coach Sash some swag. You got plenty of swag there. I know you do. Kind of talk about that too, because you talk about moving in, and you literally had to get moved in when it came to family and relocating and all that kind of stuff. But then also with the program as well. Talk about the personal side of things and comfortability and now kind of getting settled in a little bit. I don't know if it's fully settled in, but how comfortable are you guys right now in Iowa City and at the University of Iowa?
Yeah, that's kind of I don't think people really know maybe all the behind the scenes stories of coaches and moving. So I waited until my kids were done with school, and then got my house on the market probably middle of the summer with my kids playing baseball. I was not one to get kicked out of Des Moines that quickly, so sure. I probably waited a little too long to put it on the market, and so it's actually still sitting over in Grimes on the market. So if you know anybody looking for a house in Grimes, send them my way. But we had to a family of 5 crash in, my best friend from high school lives here in North Liberty. So we crashed in his basement the first week of school to get the kids going. And then we actually missed that first weekend football game over Labor Day because we were moving partially half of our stuff just, into a kind of a duplex here, just so we can get started off here until we get into a more permanent situation. But yeah, we're settling into that now. And, now that we're getting into, official practice starting last week and once we go. So, that's probably going to be our situation for the year. And then, after the season gets over, we'll kind of see where we're at with all that.
It's funny because, and people know this, but the life of a coach, it's more about the family. Like, God bless your wife, your kids, all those kind of things, because in order for you to get to do what you do, they live an interesting life at times, but I'm sure they're settled in and ready to rock and roll. Coach, you mentioned starting practice a couple weeks ago or a week ago, whatever it was. What's it been like to see these guys? I know you had workouts during the summer and all those kind of things, but what's it like to get into practice? What have you seen? And just to kind of get moving again and kind of get going towards that goal that you guys love, and that's playing basketball and winning basketball games.
Yeah, when you have such a new team, it takes a lot of time to put the pieces together, and over the course of the summer and then early in the fall and the preseason, you're very limited with your hours. So you really have to try to do your best to maximize, that time that you have together. If you look back over the course of the summer, Alvaro Folgueras was here the first 2 weeks, and then he went to play with the Spanish national team. Brendan Housen had kind of a banged up knee, didn't, participate probably the first 4 or 5 weeks of the summer, and then, got back in. Obviously, we added Trey Thompson midway through the summer, but he wasn't allowed to be a part of, basketball workouts until the fall, till school started. Tavion Banks missed the last couple of weeks of summer with a back, kind of minor back deal that, we just wanted to rest him. And so, when we got here and started school, it was the first time that we got all these guys together on the floor all at once together. So, a short preseason, a little over a month, but again, limited hours, 4 hours a week with them. You don't feel like you can get a ton accomplished. So now, with official practice starting, the amount of hours now we get is, significantly more. And so we've really, dove in and I think we gave a pretty, broad general overview of a lot of things this summer and this fall, but, there's a lot of reteaching here early on in official practice and really kind of, looking at the fine details of, all the different things that we do and, really trying to set those and set that piece of how we're going to play.
You mentioned, Coach, it's a new team, obviously, but there's that foundation of the Drake guys. Does that help to have those 6 that kind of know the staff well, obviously know Coach McCullum well? There is a foundation to kind of work from, not when it comes to like who's playing, who's not playing and all that kind of stuff, but just, what the culture needs to be, what the coaching staff is like, maybe a good foundation when it comes to a program.
Yeah, I think it helps a lot. Last year when we all got to Drake, there was one guy on staff that had worked for Coach when we were there during the summer. Zave Kurth was Coach's only assistant on staff at Northwest that came with through the summer. We later added Jaron Richmond at the start of the fall. But, even going through that first summer, just, for Coach having to, explain every drill, explain the details of look like, how are we going to guard a zoom action, how are we going to guard our ball screens, what's our defensive shell principles look like. Every little detail he was, not only teaching the guys, but he was teaching us. So at the same time, you had 4 guys that came with him from Northwest to Drake last year, so those 4 guys were a big help in already knowing those drills. So sometimes they were teaching us as staff. So I think now in year 2 of us, understanding and knowing what Coach is looking for in a lot of those things, although it's a different team, and I think there'll be some different things that we do. The core of what we do, the foundation of what we do is still the same. And then when you bring those 6 guys, 6 guys, players from Drake here, and then the whole staff essentially here, you have a really good, solid foundation of what we're doing, and it's you can move through things a little bit quicker, because of that.
JoshSash joining us right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. Coach, I want to talk to you about Bennett Sturts, and everybody wants to talk about Bennett Sturts. He's really good. And I honestly, as much as people talk about him and you see like this list that has Bennett Sturts on it or that preseason list, I still feel like in a way he's almost overlooked and underrated. Does that make sense? And what does he bring to your program? Obviously, we see the points, assists, all that kind of stuff. What does he bring maybe intangible wise that we don't get to see every single day?
Yeah, Bennett is Bennett's a great leader by example. He shows up every day. He gets extra shots. He works, extremely hard at his craft. He's a quiet, just an unassuming guy that, doesn't really care about all the hoopla and things that, probably 95% of players in college basketball care about. He cares about winning, and, he cares about, getting better. And, I think he's had a pretty good, preseason here for us. There's still ways that Bennett can improve, and I think he knows that. And so, we're continuing to push Bennett here, in the preseason. But he's starting to get, quite a few just different publications, talking about him and, some preseason accolades. But I think, for him, he doesn't, what's the thing I heard this weekend maybe was, drink the rat poison or eat the rat poison. He doesn't, he just keeps doing what he's doing. And he doesn't let that, get in the way of him and continue to get better for us.
Coach, you mentioned Alvaro Figueres, and that's another guy that not everybody, a lot of people have said, hey, what do we know about this guy? How good is this guy? And obviously he comes with quite a resume in college basketball. He played overseas during the summer. What have you guys seen from him? I know in a shortened sample size, maybe in the summer because of going overseas, but now that practice has started, what kind of basketball player can Iowa fans expect from Alvaro?
Yeah, he's a fiery competitor, first of all. He's one of our harder playing guys every single day. He wants to win. He's a good teammate. He can really pass the basketball. Is probably, I'd say, one of his best qualities is his ability to pass. So, for us, big guys that can process the game, that are skilled, that can shoot, dribble, pass, he can do all those things. And, he does all those things at a pretty high level. Now him, figuring out our system, I feel like the past probably week and a half to 2 weeks, he's really taken a big jump forward. And, he's been one of our best plus minus guys in practice every day. He's been a big effect on winning on the team that he's playing on that day. And so, I think he's really starting to hit his stride and he's starting to figure some things out. And we're excited about Alvaro.
Absolutely. JoshSash joining me right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. A guy you added late in the process was Trey Thompson, reclassifying, coming to this class, a highly rated young kid, but a young kid and a guy who's probably hitting the ground running. What it's been like for him getting to Iowa City, getting acclimated. It's funny because you guys all have the same story. You're all getting to Iowa City and getting acclimated off the court as well. What can fans expect from him? What have you guys seen from Trey Thompson early going in practice?
Yeah, it's crazy. You say that we were sitting having lunch yesterday, kind of post practice, and somebody flipped on a baseball game, and we were talking, just baseball, and he's talking about playing baseball. I think his freshman sophomore year, and we were talking about it, and all of a sudden we were like, wait a second, that was like a year or two ago. Like that wasn't that long ago for him. So for a guy that basically forego his senior year of high school and to come here as a reclass and come here early and get started, we're really excited about Trey. He's a big physical kid for him being young. He loves to work in the weight room. I think when he came in July and he was only able to do weights, he wasn't able to be on the floor with us. I think he really took to that and worked hard and continued to get stronger in the weight room. But big physical, put together kid. He's very athletic, and he really can shoot the ball from three. And he's in here almost every night shooting 5, 6, 7, 800 shots a night. And I think the work is already showing for him. He's shot the ball pretty well here in the fall, in the preseason, and into early practice for us.
Coach, I got to ask you about Cooper Koch because he's been on the show a lot as well. And an Illinois boy just down the road in Peoria, and I got to watch him in high school, and I was super excited about his freshman year, and I know it was a frustrating freshman year for him health-wise. I know he was excited to get back out there. What have you guys seen from him? He's the lone holdover. Like it's wild. What have you seen from him? I think he was on my show saying he feels like the new guy sometimes because he's the leftover. But what have you seen from him? And obviously health is a big thing. Super talented kid. I know you guys are probably excited what you have with Cooper Koch.
Yeah, I think we're really excited with what we have with Cooper. He's been pretty healthy to this point, knock on wood. And I think early on, especially, from a weight room standpoint, and then, just kind of the newness of everything we're doing, every drill, every, defensive concept, every offensive concept, there was a lot of things that were coming at him very quickly. I think over the past couple of weeks here, in the fall, he's really started to get comfortable with a lot of the things that we've been doing. You can tell when you look at him, he's has more definition to his body and has put some weight on, looks stronger, has played stronger, has started to kind of embrace, that physicality, and there's a play in practice the other day where, probably a month ago, Tavion Banks probably wedges him under the basket on a rebound. And there's a play in practice this last week that he, makes a really physical block out on Tavion. And you just those types of things, you just kind of subtly see the growth with Cooper. And I think he's had a really good first week of practice for us.
That's outstanding to hear. Josh Sash joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Coach, I know you guys have secret scrimmages. I know you can't talk about them. I know it's quiet. But when you go into them, wherever they're at or everything, what does the staff want to get out of those? I know you guys practice, you're with yourselves, all those kind of things. Is there a thought process or a plan when you go into those of certain things that you guys want to do or see when you get to, go against another team early on in the preseason?
Yeah, I think, we're looking for a couple different things and just kind of how, this whole thing lays out up to our first game. This weekend we'll get together kind of a scrimmage type setting, not a true probably inter squad scrimmage, but I think we'll have two teams after, we practice for a little bit, and then it'll be, part of a scrimmage, a smaller, sample size. I think, we're a week down the road now. Next Saturday, we'll do a road scrimmage against a really good team that, is skilled. They'll play a lot of 5-out stuff against us. It'll be a good challenge. I think they're a pretty high level mid-plus type of team that's probably going to have a very good year. So, challenge ourselves on the road there from the start. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll have, 2 weeks in between to kind of, play against somebody else. And then, sometimes when you play against yourself every day, you're like, okay, is our defense really good, or is our offense that bad, or is our offense really good and our defense is not, that day. Sure. So, playing against somebody else, playing against a different defense, a different system. And, then our guys are able to kind of solution find on their own. And obviously early on the process here, we guide them on, hey, this team's switching, ball screens 1 through 5. That's not maybe exactly what we do, but here's the solutions for those things. And so just keep building towards, being ready to play a game on November 4th. But like I said, in 2 weeks after that scrimmage, then we'll have a home scrimmage here against, another Power 4 opponent that, is probably a top 10 to 15 team in the country this year. So that's kind of how, that lays out. And then we'll have another week and a half to 2 weeks before we play our first game. And, I think just continuing to build and to get better towards that first game on November 4th.
Coach, you have everybody listening to this trying to figure out what two teams they are with the little hints that what about this team? What do they run? So you just gave people something to do over the weekend. I had somebody say to me, somebody said to me, ask them who the starting lineup is. I'm like, no coach likes that question, but I can pose it in a better way. How do you guys approach that? Are you already looking at lineups and different matchups and those kind of things? I'm assuming I'm assuming Bennett Sturts is probably gonna make the starting lineup. But how do you guys do those kind of things when it comes to how you can mix and match with faces and lineups and those kind of things?
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say Bennett's probably in the starting lineup. I don't need a coach to prove that one. I think everybody would guess that one. After that, there's, like you said, there's a lot of different ways that we can play. There's a lot of lineups that we can play. We're pretty consistently in practice moving guys from, one team to the other team and trying to, put different matchups together. Hey, maybe this is a smaller, lineup, or maybe this is our shooting lineup, or, just, different ways that we can play. And so I think that's kind of an ongoing thing. I'd have a hard time today if I was trying to come up with a starting lineup, because I think you have probably a top 3, 4, 5 that are right there, but the 6 through 10 is honestly not that far behind, and it's a good problem to have. That I think we have a pretty a team that has pretty good depth and a lot of shooting.
Coach, before I let you go, I want to talk to you about the environment in Iowa City, and it's no secret that attendance was down in the University of Iowa for basketball games, and I think there's an energy right now when it comes to the program and the fans. And I know you're doing a public scrimmage on the 17th in Iowa City, which I think is going to be a ton of fun. Are you guys? I mean, obviously you're focusing on X and O's and recruiting, all that kind of stuff, but how does the staff talk about engaging fans? I think you've done a great job of doing it so far, but that's definitely a thought process and a want when it comes to, maybe getting fans back at Carver Hawkeye Arena and energized about Iowa basketball this year.
Yeah, I think there's a concerted effort from our staff to do that with, basically meeting the fans at the ground level, and I would expect that, you've probably heard or seen of, Coach McCollum and our staff, out around at tailgates, Coach McCollum up in the student section prior. Since he's got here, I think he's done 1 million speaking engagements. And, when he does those, he doesn't just go up and speak and then leave. He's out talking to the fans and he's engaging them. And I think just that personal connection is what our staff has talked about, is trying to make sure that, we're having a personal connection or forming a personal connection with the fans and the people that we come in contact to. Because, those are the people that are going to say, hey, I like those guys, or I really enjoyed that interaction, and I think I'm going to go check out and see what they're all about. So I think it's created a pretty good buzz for us. I think, if we can continue to improve and get better and put a good product on the floor and then start to win some games, I think, and I hope that, we can flip that trend, towards, filling Carver out every single night.
Absolutely. It's funny, and I'm going to mess up exactly how it went, but somebody mentioned a story where Ben was in Des Moines, I think, to do with a bunch of coaches, and they came back, and he had to stay for something the next day or whatever, and he literally helped clean up. He was helping clean up and help people get the tables put down and stuff. And I think we see that every day. You mentioned the student section, and you see videos of him in the student section talking to the students. And I think that really relates, obviously, and this, to Iowa and what goes on. Last one for you, the schedule. And last time we talked on the Hawkeye Tailgate Show, it just came out, and it was hot off the presses. Can you just headline your thoughts of the schedule? I know you have a lot to do when it comes to putting it together, but I've had some people say, well, this section's really hard. This area is more beneficial. It's the Big Ten, Coach. You know what I mean? It's whether you shake them up and put them on a piece of paper, it's going to be a daunting task because it is the Big Ten. What's the schedule look like for you, and what comes to your mind when you look at it as a whole?
Yeah, I think, first of all, when we got here and you had a non-conference schedule that was partially put together, I think we thought there was maybe a couple more games that were there that weren't contracted back yet. So as we really, got deep into, building the schedule, we tried to, make sure that, early on with a really good team, with a really new team coming back, that we were, able to get our feet wet a little bit. We wanted to play, a handful of home games to make sure, we had home games for our fans to get to, and so I think you see, kind of having that first, couple games, Robert Morris and Western Illinois, both at home, and then we have kind of a week break until, from the Western Illinois game until the Xavier game, which will be, a really good challenge for us here at home, and hopefully an awesome environment for us to play, a good Big East team that, also has a new coach, a new head coach, but, giving us, an extended kind of prep time for that game. And then, if you look at the Palm Springs deal, I think we anticipated that, the pod that we would be in would have 3 Power 4 teams, and that's not exactly the case. But, that was something that was set ahead of time before we got here. And so, we'll take what we're dealt there and go out to California and, see if we can win 2 good games out there against, there's 3 really good opponents in our pod. So, excited about that. And then, it really starts to ramp up when you come, back from California and, right from the get-go, you go to Michigan State, and nothing can quite throw you to the fire like playing Tom Izzo in the Breslin Center. And so we're excited for the build up to get to that point, and play there on the road to start, and then play which will be a good Maryland team here at home. Those will be our first 2 Big Ten games, and then go over to Ames on December 11th. And so feel like it really builds up pretty well for us. And then right before we go into Christmas break, we got a neutral site game over in Des Moines at versus Bucknell. So the way that we kind of viewed that, we were looking for kind of the right opponent with that. And it just kind of happened that Bucknell has a kid that is a 4-year player for them, is a senior for them, who's from West Des Moines area, and they were really trying to find a game here in Iowa, and we thought hey, here's the opportunity to play a pretty good team that won their league last year. They lost quite a bit, but play a good team over in Des Moines for our fans over in Des Moines, so they don't have to travel over to Iowa City. And then and then you look at kind of the second half of the schedule. When you come back from Christmas, we'll have UMass Lowell on the 29th. After we come back from a couple days off for a Christmas break, and then we'll jump right back into the Big Ten play. And so obviously when you get into Big Ten play, to me, it's just kind of like you said, you just, you can put it all in the jar and shake it up and then dump out what you get. You're going to get what you get, and all the games are going to be hard. And there's always going to be probably, every coach that looks at their schedule is probably going to say, well, I wish we didn't have this, or I wish it laid out a little bit different here. But, we're going to play the teams we're going to play, and how it laid out is how it laid out. And I don't get too caught up in those things. I think you win the game that you're playing, and then you prep to win the next game that you're playing, and you just consistently every day are trying to get better, and it's a process, and you hope that by the end you're playing your best basketball.
Absolutely. If you guys go to Des Moines and you need a place to stay, hopefully you don't have a house there still. Hopefully anybody in Grimes area that happens to listen to the show is now on Central Iowa as well. They're being played on WHO on their streaming app. So if anybody's watching this and they need a house in Grimes, let Coach know. See if we can get it.
Yeah, we could do a short-term lease, an Airbnb. I mean, we could get creative with it.
I feel like I need a cut. I need a percentage here. I feel like I'm doing too much work. Hey, Coach, I appreciate
if we sell in the next week, I'm definitely going to call you and give you a cut.
I love it. I love it. Coach, I appreciate you always taking the time to do this. Best of luck this season. I know Media Day is coming up October 15th. So we'll do some stuff on Media Day as well. I'll see you then. I appreciate you. Be well, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Looking forward to seeing you then.
That is JoshSash, the assistant basketball coach, one of the assistants on Ben McCullum's staff at the University of Iowa. Basketball season is right around the corner. It's a great time of year. So we got more to get to here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We will be right back.
Give me the keys.
Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Are you looking to take your next party, tailgate, or golf outing to the next level? You need mobile party experience. MPX features 3 top-of-the-line party trailers equipped with all the amenities you need to party like a rock star. Smart TVs, Yeti coolers, JBL sound systems, grills, bathrooms, and much more. Mobile party experience is an experience like no other. Check out my-mpx.com or call 563-514-1470 and book your mobile party experience today. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Thursday in the Quad Cities. All the talk this past weekend in college football, and rightfully so, were the Fighting Illini. Illinois getting that huge bounce-back victory, beating USC to get back on track. On Monday, we talked all about it with Ked Prince. Bunch of excitement, and now everybody's turned the page. So we need to turn the page as well and look ahead, look forward to a big game this week, a rivalry game. And I say that, I should put quotes up, rivalry game with Purdue. Our good friend Jim Mattson from down in Peoria joining us right now. Thank you for doing this. You are always, do you have a cot at work? Like, are you there? I remember these days, but are you there 24/7?
There are times I like, well, I'm going to come in at 10, I'm going to come in at 11, I'm going to come in at noon, and then I say I better get to work now. So I'm guilty of that. Really, ever since my kids started going to school, I'm like, there's nobody at home. I may as well get to work. So I get here pretty early in the morning.
Gosh, I used to be the same way, especially like you said, when the kids went to school.
Yeah.
I'd rather have I guess it's not more leisurely day because there's never
Right.
those things, but
Get ahead of the game.
yeah, and you can be prepared when everything comes at you quickly, which I understand completely. I want to start with last week. I know we're gonna flip the page and all those kind of things, and we have to. But you were down at Geese Memorial Stadium. What was that atmosphere like? And we talked last week about having to bounce back somehow, some way. Man, hats off to Brett Bielema and company. They bounced back in a big time way.
Yeah, first and foremost, football. The offensive line was great. We talked about the offensive line and the debacle at Indiana probably started there. And the offensive line was great. I mean, Illinois really was not stopped in the game. They kind of scored at will. They ran the ball. They protected Luke Altmaier, although the one time Altmaier got hit, that was one of the biggest hits I've ever seen. I wasn't sure he was going to get up. He showed some toughness there, but the offensive line was great. The team was great. So it was a great response. There were some flaws defensively, but it was a great response. It was just a fun game, Matt. I've been to Illinois games for 40 some years, and that was an enjoyable game. There were big plays. There was high drama at the end. There was obviously a bit of a field storm at the end. It was just a really exciting game. Homecoming sold out. REO Speedwagon at halftime. I mean, if you bought a ticket, you got your money's worth from that game for sure. And I mentioned to you before we went on the air that I'm kind of a football guy, a basketball guy. I'm all about the game. But I thought it was cool, like the Fox Big Noon show being there, and was a Barstool being there. Mm-hmm. I mean, by the time I arrived, that place was already electric. An hour and a half before the game, fans were excited, fans were ready, and I give credit to those national shows because I do think they add a lot of juice, a lot of excitement to game day, and that's pretty cool. I think Illinois was excited to be on a national stage, even pregame, which was fun.
Yeah, and they Big Noon Monday against Ohio. Big Noon Saturday against Ohio State. We don't know if the crew comes or not, but that game is a Fox start. You'd assume it probably will as well because it should be a big game, all things considered. I want to circle back around to that offensive line play because I thought Luke Altmaier caught some strays against Indiana where, kind of people threw him under the bus. Didn't play great, but didn't stay upright. And that's such a huge thing. I think he just proved that if you can protect that guy. Now, I'm a Jared Goff guy, and people always say, well, if you can protect for Jared Goff, he's really good. Well, guess what? If you can protect any quarterback, it usually helps out in the long run. Talk about what we saw from Luke Altmaier because he was outstanding, and I think the huge difference was he was upright the majority of the game.
Yeah, you're right. His accuracy was phenomenal Saturday. I mean, he was throwing a lot of 10, 12-yard passes, but they were right on the money and very rarely under duress. You're absolutely right. He did not have to vacate the pocket. He didn't have to avoid tacklers. So it starts with the offensive line protection. But you're right. Given time, he was hitting, Clement underneath and hitting Baby underneath and, obviously Bowick with a touchdown. But a lot of those little just timing 10, 12 yards, those add up. And by the end of the game, you're sitting there with 300 yards. You're right. We see Goff and the Lions do it all the time. And he might throw in a wild throw to Jameson Williams or something. But for the most part, they're all just quick timing on the money passes. And I don't think Altmaier maybe made a wow pass, but he just made every pass right on the money. And I thought it was Luke Altmaier's best game. Obviously he had the hat trick with the touchdown catch, the touchdown run, and the touchdown pass, which is pretty
awesome.
Cool. But as a quarterback, he was dynamite, man. He played really, really well. And at the beginning of the year, I thought maybe he'd be among the best Big Ten quarterbacks. And given time, he showed like he can be.
Jimmy, you can see why SEC schools wanted
Yes.
him and came at him hard. He's a really good, it's a luxury to have in college football, to have a guy like that who, like you mentioned, you thought he'd be one of the best Big Ten quarterbacks. I think he is one of the best Big Ten quarterbacks, and we can argue and go back and forth, but he's had a really good season. Take out the Indiana game, and like I said, that Indiana game, everything went wrong, including defense, Jim. And I want to talk to you about that because they gave up 63 points, and then you flip it, and they gave up 32, and somebody said to me they still gave up 32 points. USC was averaging 50-some points a game.
Yeah.
And going into the fourth quarter, would they give up 17? And then obviously things got away with 15 unanswered, but the defense played better, a lot better. What was the difference?
Well, I think I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, obviously they have the big two takeaways. They had the big takeaways were big in the game. For Illinois. Illinois' fumbles were big in the game too, but I just felt like they played a little bit more aggressively. I felt like, USC was really talented at receiver. I thought, the two touchdowns in the fourth quarter were right in front of me, and Illinois had good coverage on both of them. So I give USC credit that they put together drives. Illinois was not great on third down, fourth down. I don't know if that's a small sample size, but USC made a lot of plays on third down, even a couple on fourth down to keep drives alive. So when you look at the times USC punted, they didn't punt much, but Illinois put them in position to have to make plays and give USC credit. But I just felt like Illinois was a little better defensively. It does concern me because they even the Duke game, they had turnovers, but they didn't get off the field. Obviously, the Indiana game, 7 straight scores by the Hoosiers. In this game, they couldn't get off the field when the game was on the line. But I thought you saw some improvement. But I'll tell you what, man, I think defense at this point is maybe the part that keeps Illinois from being elite in the Big Ten at this point, especially with the injury to Xavier Scott. You just go down the pecking order. Your number one quarterback's out, so now 2's guarding 1, 3's guarding 2. It just puts a little bit more pressure on the defensive backfield.
Jim, you mentioned those USC wide receivers, and they're really good. We never know how good they are until the NFL comes around, because somebody told me this the other day, and this boggles my mind. Iowa beat USC in the Holiday Bowl. I want to say it was like 2019, something like that. USC's starting wide receivers were Drake London, Michael Pittman, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's the 3 wide receivers that USC have. I didn't even realize that. Somebody said it the other day, like, how did Iowa beat a team with those 3? I was like, that's number 1 wide receivers at 3 different NFL organizations right now. So, yeah, USC obviously loaded when it comes to wide receiver and offense as well. When it comes to a bounce back, this is my favorite stat of the week, Jim. And I don't know if you've seen it. From 2008 to 2023, so those 15 years, Illinois had 3 victories over ranked teams. They were 3-40. In 2024, and now this year, they have 5 already. They're 5-3 against ranked teams. So 15 years, 3 victories, 5 in the last year and a half. I said this to Ked Prince. That's Brett Bielema, correct?
Yeah. Oh, I think it's very much so. I think Bielema has found a bit of a formula to keep Illinois in those games, and they have rarely been blown out. You go back to the second half of Penn State, the Oregon game, but they have really, really played well in big games for the most part. And I'll tell you what, it's going to go down on Luke Altmaier's resume too. All the close victories. Illinois plays a lot of close games, and under Bielema's watch, under Luke Altmaier's quarterback, they've won a lot of close games. They have won the 50-50 games, and whether you want to call it luck or whether you want to call it the ball bouncing Illinois' way, at some point you got to look at Brett Bielema and you got to look at Luke Altmaier and say winners. They find a way to win.
Yeah, especially Luke Altmaier. It's a good feeling if you're an Illini fan and you get the ball back with $1.50 to go and you have that guy.
doubt.
I mean, I think everybody I was watching from the press box in Iowa City, and I said to my son, I'm like, they're winning this game. It's just a question if it's a touchdown or a field goal. And they did just that. Last thing on that game, celebration-wise, you mentioned the field rush, and I had some people, probably Iowa fans, and not me, but fellow Iowa fans come at me and say, how dumb is that? Why are they rushing the field? They got killed the week before, and they just beat the number 121 team. And I said, shut up. Like, it's college football. Have fun. That's a huge bounce back win, and it had nothing to do with the 21 in front of USC's number. It had a lot to do with where that program was last week to what just happened this week, and the fact that, Jim, they blew a 14-point lead, and it was, oh no, and then they came back and won it as time expired. I love those kind of things about college athletics. I don't want to rush the field every game, don't get me wrong, but I love to see that in programs that haven't done a lot of it lately. Your thoughts on the atmosphere after the game?
Yeah, I think it was just capping off a great day. Like I said, fans got there early. Fans had fun. REO Speedwagon at halftime. It was happy, happy, happy. All of a sudden, fourth quarter, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. And then the game ends on a kick. I mean, everybody's on the edge of their seat already. It's not too hard to get off the seat and run on the field. I don't know if it was a storming as much as it was just joy. I mean, people were just happy that Illinois won, and they literally wanted to congratulate the players and be on the field. And I just thought it was kind of capped off a fun day. To be honest with you, not once did I think, why are they storming the field? I thought it seemed pretty natural and pretty right for fans to run out there and enjoy the moment and cap off a great homecoming win. And from the standpoint you said, you could see just remarkable joy in Bielema. You could see just remarkable relief and joy in the Illini players that it was a major, major bounce back. And, the shot of Bielema with his daughter, and, that's if we can't have fun on a college football Saturday, we're taking everything a little too seriously.
Amen to that. Jim Mattson joining me in Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. And Jim, you mentioned it. We talked last week. It can be a slippery slope. The way that game goes, it gets more difficult, or it kind of projects you or boosts you into the stress run. What's next is Purdue, and we've already talked. I've mentioned Ohio State twice. I don't think I've mentioned Purdue maybe once. And that's the problem, is that a lot of people are looking ahead to Ohio State. You're coming off the emotional victory against USC, and here's a road game against a quote-unquote rival. It's a sneaky trap game. What do the Illini have to do to make sure that game in 2 weeks, or now a little more than a week, against Ohio State is as big as people want it to be?
Well, I think it is a classic trap game. I mean, last year they played, if I'm not mistaken, Penn State, Michigan, and in between Purdue, and Purdue took them to overtime. This year, obviously, it's USC homecoming, it's Ohio State, in between's Purdue, and Purdue's had a bye week. So Purdue's been kind of licking their chops to get back in the field. So, I mean, if you were going to set up the ultimate trap game scenario, this is it. I'll be curious. Purdue is, I think, kind of trying to copy a page out of the Indiana playbook with a new coach and 54 players in the transfer portal and some unbelievable number. But, Purdue scored 40 points against Illinois in the second half last year. It was one of the craziest games you've ever seen, with Illinois up like 27-3 at halftime, and the game goes to overtime. So Purdue's got their quarterback back, and I think their quarterback is a tough guy to prepare for because, Ryan Brown is really maybe a run-first quarterback. I know he's had a 300-yard passing game this year, and last year he was certainly a run-first quarterback. And Devin Mockabee is, I think, a very average Big Ten running back, except for when he plays Illinois, and he's an all Big Ten running back. So they've got a couple familiar names, and then 50 new faces, and they scored 23 points in the first half against Notre Dame. They put some yards on the board against USC. So I think Purdue will score. Illinois, you don't want to get into a situation where a late turnover or a late mistake can cost you a game. So I think Illinois is. I think maybe Purdue caught their attention a year ago because they played Illinois too close a year ago.
Jim, I mentioned it at the top, and I'm a little cranky because I'm a Quad Cityan or citizen. I don't know which it is. I think it's Quad Cityan. I want to see Iowa Illinois every game or every year.
Yeah.
And I know that this is the protected rivalry game. Am I just being a cranky guy up here that wants to see Iowa Illinois? Is it a bigger deal downstate? I mean, I know it is in basketball, and there's a lot of hatred between those two schools when it comes to basketball. Is it a rivalry, or is it or do you kind of get annoyed that that's one of the protected games? Is it just me?
No, I'm with you. I have never thought of Illinois Purdue as a big rivalry. I'm getting old and there's cobwebs up there, but I can't remember great Illinois Purdue memories. My best memory of Illinois Purdue is Rod Woodson was just unbelievable. Had one of the best games I ever saw at Memorial Stadium. Was playing wide receiver, defensive back, blocking kicks. One of the best players I ever saw in the Big Ten. But I've never. I mean, I know there's a trophy, and I guess that's why it becomes kind of important. But to be honest with you, I've always said I don't know that Illinois has a football rivalry. I probably consider Iowa more than anyone. The Northwestern game's a trophy game. The Ohio State's a trophy game. I don't think anybody at Ohio State's calling Illinois a rival. So I always find it kind of funny that the Cannon's nice. It's a nice trophy, but I've never had sentimental feelings about, boy, I'd like to be Purdue. I mean, maybe getting an astronaut to space is our rivalry with Purdue, but I don't feel like it's a big football rivalry.
Jim Mattson joining us right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. A few more for you before I let you get out of here and get to work. I look at this game and I think, man, there might be some uncomfortable moments on Saturday, and it's not going to be as easy as I think people think it's going to be. But in the end, Illinois wins this game, maybe going away a little bit, but they get the job done. Tell me what you think you might see or we might see on Saturday at Purdue, and does Illinois get the job done this week?
Yeah, I still think Illinois would like to get the running game going a little bit more efficiently. I know they put up pretty good running yards with a couple of big plays and an Altmaier run or two, but I would like to see maybe Aiden Lawfrey maybe get healthy and get some touches before Ohio State. Maybe Caden Fagan get a little momentum built up a little bit before Ohio State. So I still would like to kind of get the running game lathered up a little bit for Illinois. But I'm with you. I think Illinois is going to score a lot. I think Illinois will be in the mid to high 30s. I don't think Purdue will be able to keep up with them. I got like 38-24 somewhere in there. But I really like what I saw with the Illinois offense. I know afterwards Bielema talked about Barry Lenny called a great game. I really thought he called a great game. I thought they really were good on first down. I thought they were very good at marching down the field. I thought they mixed the run and pass. They had the trick play, which was fun. I feel like Illinois' offense turned the page a little bit, and I think they will be able to score too many points for Purdue to keep up with them.
I think that's well said. I just had JoshSash on the show. He's the assistant coach at the University of Iowa. So it's got my basketball juices flowing. And it's crazy, Jim, because we're going to blink and it's going to be that fun time of year where you're dealing with football and basketball at the same time. And we joke, and I've joked before that like usually around this time of year, maybe a little later, Illinois turns their attention to basketball, maybe already by now. And that's not the case. But I want to talk to you a little bit about basketball because I know fans are focused on football and they should be, but it should be a great winter for both the men and the women down in Champaign. For the men's side of things, some intriguing guys that come back, and once again, some intriguing transfers that come onto campus.
Yeah, obviously, Illinois has bought into the Europeans, and now you bring in Ivicic's brother, you bring in, Mihailio, you bring in some speedy guys, Stojakovic, the transfer from Cal. So the foreign guys are fun, but I always think that you see Brad Underwood evolving. And I think Underwood last year realized that having just one guy back and not having any continuity is hard. So to have Boswell back and to have, Ivicic back for another year and to have Ben Humrickhouse back for another year, I do think that helps Illinois. I think there's 4 or 5 or 6 guys who know what a Brad Underwood practice is like and know what Brad Underwood preseason is like. And I do think that'll help the team a lot. So I'm really excited about Illinois basketball. Today's actually media day, and you're right. Normally by media day, the leaves are turning, and then the Illinois football season's over. And it's fun to think that Illinois is going to have potentially 2 ranked teams and a lot of excitement throughout October and November.
Is this a Big Ten champion contender? Is it not one, or is it a wait and see type of thing because of the new guys and how it looks on the court?
Yeah, my budget, sometimes I get to go to Moline, usually not much farther than Galesburg, but I've never seen these European guys, Matt. I don't have that on my TV package, so it's very wait and see for me. I mean, I used to, when Illinois was recruiting Illinois high school kids, I used to have a pretty good feel for almost every kid that showed up at Illinois. I have no idea what to think about these guys. So it is wait and see. And obviously we know Purdue's loaded. Michigan on paper looks really, really good. I think Illinois will be a top tier Big Ten team. I don't know if they'll be elite. We'll have to see.
You know what? I'm trying to track down, and you'll know the name. Remember Tom Sigel, the head coach at Rock Island that won state championships? Yeah. His son, Colton Sigel, is a grad assistant on the Illinois basketball team right now.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that right?
Crazy? Yeah. So we're efforting to get Colton on the show. Maybe next week. We've been working on it for a little bit.
That'd be great.
So, following in Dad's footsteps, it should be a ton of fun. Hey, a couple off the wall things I wanted to ask you about real fast. Farmington and Macomb is a fantastic matchup on Friday. We're going to preview it a little more on Friday on our show there. The guys from The View from the West really highlight that game. That's a really good matchup. I know you don't know maybe a ton about Macomb, but Farmington just reloaded. And I think because Rock Ridge people up here, I think Farmington's 3 in the state, something like that. How good are the Farmers? And that's a really fun game on Friday. One of the best games in the state.
Yeah, Farmington is very good. They've got a lot of linemen back from last year's state Final Four team. They've inserted a freshman quarterback, a big kid. He's like 6'4", 6'5". He really throws the ball. But I'll tell you what, they have 3 wide receivers that, would be great in Class 5A or 6A. Wow. They've got a kid, Jack Grunwald, going to North Dakota, and he's about as good a small school player as we've covered. He'll play Wildcat quarterback. He'll take direct snaps. He'll get pitched the ball. He'll throw the ball. But he's an unbelievable wide receiver. And then they've got 2 other wide receivers, a kid named Boston Smith and a kid named Landon Crawford. They've got 3 good-sized, very talented wide receivers. So they're really hard to defend. I mean, most small schools are kind of running base. This team can really air it out. And I think they have 3, better than all-conference type receivers, borderline all-state receivers. I mean, they are really loaded there. So Toby Vallis, who grew up in Knoxville and former Knoxville coach, has just done a wonderful job at Farmington.
That's a little teaser ahead. Next segment, we have Ty Taylor talking track football. So
yeah.
Little high school's teaser. Before I let you go, last one, I promise. Earlier this week, Jake Brend is our Cyclone expert with Cyclone Fanatic, and he brought up, and I've been asking everybody about it, that when he grew up, it's a staple in Iowa that you have chili and cinnamon rolls. That's like a staple together. Chili and okay. I've never heard of this in my life. And then I've had a few Illinois people tell me that in Northwest Illinois, it's prevalent as well. Have you ever heard of having chili and cinnamon rolls together?
It's like tailgate as breakfast.
I guess it was a lunch in school. Like you would go to school and one of the lunch, one day a week, they'd have like chili and cinnamon rolls. And you could dip it if you want to, or you could just eat them together. Okay, I'm so glad that you're acting this way because you look like I looked when he brought it up.
I like them both. I'm a huge fan of chili and cinnamon rolls, but I've never heard of them together. That's a new one on me.
Okay, good. All right, I'm taking a poll. So you're in the no. Would you try it?
Never heard of it.
Would you try it?
Actually, when you said dip it, I was like, it sounds kind of weird, but it might not be the worst thing. But I probably would try it, but I can't imagine like putting the chili on top of the cinnamon roll.
It's weird.
That's weird.
I'm going to try it next week. I think Julian Vandervelde is my food expert. I think we're going to do a little segment on the show with Julian and try this kind of nonsense as well. The dumb things that I do now that I don't have news to do and I can have a little more time. So, Jim, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Friday night as well. Are you going down to Media Day today for Illinois?
I am. I'm heading down there. So that's another reason I'm in early. I gotta do the I-74 eastbound and down race to Champaign.
I love it. Jim, I always appreciate you. Be well. We'll talk soon.
See you guys.
All right. That is Jim Mattson down in Peoria. Honestly, one of the best in the business and his knowledge of everything. But Illinois athletics is unmatched in my opinion. So, and I'm glad that he thinks that the cinnamon rolls and chili thing is weird as well, because I'm still trying to figure that out. And that's my idea for next week. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Excuse me. But I'm going to get a hold of Julian. He's my food expert around here. And I'm going to ask him if he's done it, and then we're going to try it. So I think that'll be a fun segment next week as well. We got more to get to. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Up next, Ty Taylor talking track football and more. We'll be right back. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak, with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Thursday, October 2nd. I can't believe October is already here. Football season flying by. We are getting set for week 6 of the high school football season. And as we do every Wednesday, we talk to Ty Taylor. And I was breaking news yesterday with the Iowa commitment and all that kind of stuff. I had to bump Ty Taylor to Thursday. And Ty, I got so many emails. I got death threats. I mean, it was wild. They're like, where is Ty Taylor? And I'm like, just be patient. Good things come to those who wait. Here he is, Ty Taylor from WRMJ. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. You know, I don't believe you on that, but I do appreciate the kind words. But maybe everyone's just clamoring to talk about Three Rivers Athletic Conference football. Guy to wait all the way till Thursday after the big week we had last week. I can't believe all your sponsorships weren't pulled, man.
Well, the thing is, I always like to flip the page and like kind of move ahead to this week, but we have to start with last week because we sat here and we talked about 2 marquee matchups, and I'm not saying they weren't good games, but 2 convincing victories. I don't know if I expected both of them to be as convincing as they were. I'm going to start with the one that we caught strays. We caught hell for. Monmouth Roseville going on the road and just and in all respect to Princeton, just being more physical than the Tigers and beating them up front, running the football like they do and winning. First off, I apologized to Jeremy Adolphson on the show on Monday. Do you have anything to say? I'll let you have the floor.
Well, I've talked with Coach Adolphson a few times since we had him on our Sportsline program. I recorded a conversation with him late on Friday night. I did acknowledge that I was wrong. I didn't apologize, though, I guess.
There you go.
You'll never hear me apologize. But then I talked to him this week because they're playing Sherrard, so we cover Sherrard. So we did a little bit of a pregame chat with him, too. So, yes, they proved me wrong, that's for sure. No, I was surprised too, like you were saying, about just the level of dominance they had. I mean, like we talked about coming into the week, last year, the way that game went, it wasn't surprising Monmouth Roseville beat them, but man, it was shocking to me how they beat them. And this year, similar thing where I know Princeton isn't quite to the level they were last year or the past 3 or 4 years specifically, but man, I just was really surprised at the margin of victory, because if you look at Princeton's first 2 losses against Newman, 14-14 through 3, game they easily could have won. Led Rock Ridge by 14 in the second half. In week 2, a game they lost but easily could have won. This is a game that they were nowhere near winning at all. And, Monmouth Roseville just completely dominated them in every aspect, really. So super impressive win for the Titans, and they're definitely on the road to winning, back-to-back conference championships, which, as we've talked about earlier in the year, last year was the first time since Monmouth and Roseville consolidated that they won an outright football conference title. So trying to go back-to-back for the first time ever, and they, I think, are pretty heavy favorites both this week and next week to be able to lock that up.
I agree with everything you said, except you're not married, are you? You have to learn to say
I am not. That is
you have to learn to say I'm sorry. Like, as somebody who's been married for years. Gosh, I don't 17 years. God, I hope this is right. Thank God my wife never watches the show. You just gotta sometimes bite the bullet and say I'm sorry. Sometimes I was wrong doesn't count. Like, it just doesn't count. If you want to continue to have a good relationship and a loving relationship with Jeremy Adolphson, I think everybody wants to have that in their life. Sometimes I'm sorry is worth it. When you look at the other side and kind of the same thing, Rockridge, Newman, you expected a battle. I think, man, it was either you or Greg. I'll give you the credit, but it might've been Greg that said, like, finally, like a younger Cullen Schweigen couldn't figure out or didn't beat Newman, but he wasn't a freshman. He wasn't a sophomore. Now he's a junior. Rockridge figured it out. They win that game, impressed by that. And also the Rockridge defense is really good too. Just your thoughts on that game and what came out of that game headline wise for you.
Yeah, I think number one, it just was, as we've talked about coming into the game too last week, the storyline was, could Rockridge figure out Newman's defense, because the previous 2 years, 1 touchdown apiece in both of those games, and it took them a little bit. I believe Rockridge didn't score until the final minute or so of the first half to take a 7-6 lead. That kind of kickstarted them to eventually run away with it in the second half, scoring the final 26 points of the game to win that game 26-6. I think that's number one takeaway is just the how efficient they were able to be, especially in the second half. We know Rockridge's offense is really explosive. We've seen it really throughout the season. They put up 30 plus on Princeton earlier in the year. But this Newman team was, I think, definitely the best defense they've played to this point, and to be able to still put up 26, get to the end zone 4 times, was a really good showing for sure. And then defensively for Rockridge, same story, really. Just it feels like year over year defensively they are so good. They always have to replace, feels like 3 or 4 at least, really high level producers from the previous year. And every year they somehow find kids to slide into those spots and produce, maybe not at the same level, but at a similar level at least, to be able to kind of keep that defense rolling the way they have been, and to limit Newman to just 6 points and hold them scoreless in the second half in a game that, like we've talked about, had the magnitude that it did coming in, was certainly really impressive. And I just think for Rockridge, that just felt like a hump they needed to get over, was to beat Newman. Now they still have a really tough and challenging game coming up in a couple of weeks against Monmouth Roseville, but in terms of trying to set yourself up for a good draw in the postseason and give yourself the best chance possible to go on a run, you got to win games like that to get to 8 wins, to try to get to 9 wins, and big win in a lot of respects for Rockridge on Friday for sure.
Yeah, I think seeding, and I don't want to get too far ahead into the postseason. Greg and Mitch spent the whole week like doing the crystal ball and all that kind of stuff. Talk about catching trouble. Boy, I'm listening. I'm taking notes, Ty, and like everything they get wrong, I'm calling every coach and I'm telling on them like I'm a 5-year-old child. But you look ahead and like they need seeding, and 2A is really good. We just had Jim Mattson on last segment. We asked him a little bit about the Farmington team that he covers a lot, and they're really good. So like seeding and that kind of stuff is important. You look to this week, and yeah, there's no big matchups when it comes to what we had last week, but an intriguing week as always. I want to stay with Rockridge because we did the rivalry thing over the summer, and Orion and Rockridge, one of the biggest rivalries on our list in the top 10. And it's almost like that game's almost overlooked this week a little bit. It's a really good rivalry. I don't want to say it'll be a letdown game for Rockridge, but they got to guard against that. And then Orion needs it really bad. Your thoughts on Rockridge, Orion, 2 teams in your area that you guys cover a ton and that you'll be at on Friday night?
Yeah, so it's a game that as you were kind of alluding to, that there is the rival aspect of it, I think, just because of how local the two schools are. There was probably at least 10-year stretch where both teams were really, really good every year. And Orion, with some of their numbers issues the past couple of years, they haven't quite been at the level of Rock Ridge the past 3 or 4 years. But I think that's a game that both programs and communities, too, for sure, definitely get up for. So there should be a good crowd, probably a pretty good atmosphere at that game too. But I agree with you where Rock Ridge, I always worry about stuff like that where you're coming off a game that had so much hype leading into it like they did last week. And this game, although it is against like a local rival, it doesn't have nearly the amount of like pomp and circumstance coming into it as the game last week did against Newman. So for Rock Ridge, super important for them to stay focused because they have, this week against Orion, next week against Mercer County, two teams that there's, should be very heavy favorites against. But then week 8, it's Monmouth Roseville, so you don't want to look too far ahead before you get to week 8. You got to, like we've talked about with postseason seeding and stuff and trying to win a conference championship outright, you got to take care of business against the teams you're supposed to beat. And then on the Orient side of things, that they're definitely a team that needs to find a win. They've got 4 games left on the schedule. They're 2-3, and the math says obviously you need to go at least 3-1 to try to play into week 10. This week will be tough, but then they have, I think, Erie, Prophetstown, Kewanee, and Sherrard down the stretch, which are all winnable games for them for sure. But I think, for them, a disappointing week a couple of weeks ago, the way they got kind of run over by Newman, and then last week they just dug themselves too big of a hole against Riverdale to be able to come back from. So they've lost 2 in a row. Got to get some footing. Even if you don't win, I think you got to try to build some momentum to go into weeks, 7, 8, and 9, where you're going to probably have to win all 3 of those games.
Yeah, a loss this week by Orion kind of puts them in the playoff mode already, where you have to, here we go, week 7, it's a must win. I do agree with you, and I don't want to get my crystal ball out and get in trouble, but they can win 3 games at the end. We'll see what happens against Rock Ridge. And I was at that Riverdale Orion game, Ty. I called the game on MC22, and I left going like, those are 2 playoff teams. And I believe that. I think that Orion's got the talent, so with Owen Voorhees and obviously and I'm missing the name of the wide receiver that had a really good game for them this week, and I apologize there. But and obviously Cale Filler and what he does. It's a good football team, so we'll see if they can challenge Rock Ridge. That game's at Rock Ridge, correct? Or is it back at Orion?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah,
and it's Rock Ridge. So okay. And that kind of leads us to Riverdale. We talked about the Orion-Riverdale matchup last week. Riverdale and the Fighting Brine Stockings are, no, they're the Rams, but they are 4-1 on the season. They can become playoff eligible with a victory this week. It's a tough. I mean, I think this is the game that intrigues me the most on the entire schedule because I think it's probably the best game. It's a rivalry game. You go to Erie Prophetstown and play an Erie Prophetstown team that they think they're a playoff team, and that's a good argument to have. They probably are one. Looking ahead to that game, what do you see? And it could be a big Friday night. And I know Riverdale's goal is not to win 5 games and be done, but to see here in week 6 of the season that they can clinch a postseason spot would be pretty special. Talk about that game for me.
Well, yeah, it's a really fun opportunity for Riverdale, as we've talked about, throughout the year, and it's been covered a lot from a lot of different people, just the story of their program having to cancel 3 years ago to now being in a spot where they're 1 win away from getting to the postseason for the first time since 2011, I think is really a remarkable turnaround. And I know there's a lot of excitement there. You were there last week. I was there a couple of weeks ago, and Mercer County played in Port Byron, and just the crowds they get and kind of the energy and excitement around that program is really fun to see. So they're definitely playing for a lot, and Erie Prophetstown is in a similar spot to Orion, as we were talking about earlier. They're 3-2 right now, but they have, I think challenging games ahead as well down the stretch where we talked about they play Orion week 7, which feels like it's kind of a toss-up game. This game feels like it's a toss-up this week. And then they've got, I think, Princeton at the end of the season, which will be, tough to beat too. I think Mendoza's in there for them as well. So when you get to this time of the year, when you're kind of battling in that 3-2, 2-3 spot, every game is really important. So Riverdale and Erie Prophetstown, they've got 2 kind of differing styles, I guess. I mean, they both run first, but Erie Provincetown spreads it out more, where Riverdale kind of bunches it up and runs more out of a traditional kind of like, tight end set with a wing and everything. Erie Provincetown does a lot of 4 wide receivers with the running back in the backfield. So I think that game probably be decided up front, by both teams, who I think are pretty strong along the offensive and defensive lines, at least from what I've seen when I've seen them in person so far this season. So two teams in this game that are playing for a lot, that's for sure. And you factor in kind of the local rivalry aspect of Riverdale and Erie Provincetown playing. That should be a really fun game, and I expect pretty competitive into the fourth quarter for sure.
No, absolutely. And of course, if I think when Riverdale makes the postseason, Brian Stocking is going to shave his head. He doesn't know it yet. He doesn't want to yet. He's probably going to watch this, and I'm going to get a text that says, like, I am not shaving my head, and I get that. But we got to get Stockpile to do something, because he was so excited. Did you watch View from the West Instant Reacts last week?
I skipped the part that Brian Stocking was on, like I do every week.
Makes sense. But like when Guy Derricks came on, he was like Buddy the Elf. From Elf. He was like, it was like Santa was there. He was like cheering, and like he was so happy, and I want to see Stockpile happy. I think everybody does. So Ty Taylor from WRMJ joining me on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. A few more I want to kind of look at. You look at it, Ty, in a game that you'll be on the call for on Saturday. Boy, if you would have told me 10 years ago that like Mercer County and Newman were hooking up on a Saturday afternoon, I mean, I might take the trip. And I was on a bye week this week, so I have a Saturday available. Unfortunately, I have 4 kids, but not unfortunately, that came out wrong. Anyway, before I get in too much trouble, that's a fun matchup on a Saturday. But it's obviously Mercer County down a little bit this year. Tell me your thoughts on that game, and Newman maybe bouncing back, and Mercer County trying to figure it out right now under a new head coach.
Yeah, it feels like for Newman, probably kind of like a get-right game. Like you said, Mercer County, they've just struggled, mightily this year, especially the past, I think, 3 weeks. They've lost 3 in a row and have given up 40-plus points in each of them, and, games that have really kind of been over, it feels like, in the, first or second quarter. So they just – I don't know. I think for them, you just want to see the kids continue to play hard, because that's what they've done. They've played hard. They've kind of battled through it. It just is a really tough schedule that they're playing, and it doesn't get any easier because, next week they have Rock Ridge, and then after that it's Princeton. So it's a challenging spot for them to be in. And at 1-4, obviously you need to, somehow win all of those games to try to play into week 10, which, I don't really expect it to happen. But Newman, I think for them, like I was saying, it's a chance for them to kind of get back on track. As they try to, get their way to 8 wins. They have a game with Monmouth Roseville looming in week 9. So for them, likely kind of factoring into the 1A playoffs, it looks like they're going to be close to the 1A, 2A line, but I think more than likely they'll be in 1A. There are a ton of great teams that are in that 1A North bracket, of course. So going 8-1 would certainly feel a lot better than being 7-2. And potentially looking at, maybe a road game there at like one of those NUIC schools. You don't want to have to do that. So for them, again, same thing as Rock Ridge, where it's a game that certainly doesn't have the amount of, hype leading into it against Mercer County. It's going to be Saturday afternoon. It's going to be really, really hot too. But I think that they'll be able to kind of overcome all of that and should be able to win that game pretty handily, I would think, on Saturday.
Last game I want to talk about real fast is the Princeton Hall game, because Hall is quietly undefeated in their division in the Mississippi and winning games. And the question is, are they for real and all those kind of things? And then you have Princeton. I think the last time you saw Princeton kind of frustrated and not being able to, they took it out on an opponent week 4 and they won easily. Feels like a get right game for Princeton, but there's Hall and it's a good rivalry and they're winning football games. Your thoughts on is Hall for real, or does Princeton bounce back nicely? Your thought on that game?
I think Princeton should be able to bounce back, pretty well this week. And I think they should win their remaining 4 games in the regular season. Their schedule was so front loaded, and with the type of players they had to replace from last year, I think maybe if their schedule is flipped and they get these games, at the end of the season, maybe they win them. And I know
so you're saying they would have beaten Monmouth Roseville. Was that a shot? Another
I
shot?
said maybe.
Was that another
I did
shot?
not say that.
Okay, I'm just checking. Okay, go ahead. I don't want to get you in trouble.
I was speaking. I was speaking more specifically about weeks 1 and 2, Newman and Rock Ridge, where they were in the games in the fourth quarter. But sure, you can try to get all those big Monmouth Roseville linemen to come to Alito and beat me up. I don't really want that to happen.
No one wants to see that.
But I do think, but like I was saying, they've had to replace so many high-level kids. And I talked with Coach Pearson early in the season. I think he said like week 1 against Newman, they had 17 or 18 kids that were playing meaningful snaps for them, that it was the first time they played varsity football at Princeton. So that's something where they're a team that certainly is going to be able to grow throughout the year. And like I said, I think they'll probably win their last 4 games of the regular season and be back in the 3A playoffs. And to me, that's a team that I know that like the 3A North is absolutely a murderer's row, but like 6-3 Princeton, that would be a tough team to draw in round 1 just because of the program that they have and just how they win in the postseason year after year after year. So I expect Princeton to win that game against Hall. I know Hall's 3-0 and they won 3 games in a row and have been playing really well, but I don't think that game will be really particularly close, in my opinion. I mean, I think Princeton is probably leaps and bounds better than Hall, because Hall, they still have to play Monmouth Roseville too in the division.
Yeah. No, you look at it, Ty, and Princeton last year lost that game in Monmouth Roseville, and it was like the end of the world and the sky was falling, and they had a fantastic postseason run. And I still believe that they can have a really good postseason run. And you mentioned a lot of youth on that team and some new faces, and they're going to continue to get better. And I think that's what happens, and they get some confidence the rest of the way. And I'm intrigued to watch them in the postseason if they are a 6-3 team like we may think they are. Week 8 and week 9, really good in this conference. This week will be interesting. Is it kind of now like, I don't want to say we're skipping week 7 or anything like that, or even this week, but week 8 and week 9 have those Rock Ridge or those Monmouth Roseville games versus Rock Ridge and Newman that should be fascinating. Are we is that the next marquee big games that we can look at?
I think so. Although I do think in week 7, like I touched on earlier, Orion Erie Prophetstown is super interesting because that feels like it's basically a playoff game for both teams. So that'll be fun next week. And then I know next week, will be the end of the divisional game. So like the division champions will be wrapped up and crowned next week, which is something that sure. I think, of course, for the teams to end up being the champions on each side of the conference is something they're looking forward to. But I do think for sure, like the marquee games left in terms of high-end top teams are the 2 you mentioned, Rock Ridge, Monmouth Roseville, and then Monmouth Roseville, Newman. In week 9, but like I said, week 7, Orion and Erie Provincetown, that'll be a really fun and interesting result to follow.
Ty, I got a weird question to ask you. I've been asking several people on the show, and it started. We have new viewers in Central Iowa, which we're loving, and we love the feedback and all that kind of stuff. But we had Jake Brendon earlier this week. He's our cyclone expert, and he randomly just because he's going to go visit. He's covering the game in Cincinnati, and he's like, I want to see Skyline chili and eat the Skyline chili. He's like, I'm used to the old staple of chili and cinnamon rolls, and I stopped and I was like, what are you talking about, chili and cinnamon rolls? And he's like, well, yeah, that's what it's a thing in Central Iowa and Western Iowa. So I've been asking as many people as I can. I've been finding some people here and there. Have you ever heard of such a thing as chili and cinnamon rolls, or am I the only guy that's never heard of it?
I have, and
Ooh.
The reason I have is because growing up in the Alito and then Mercer County School District, that was one of our lunches that we would have a few times a year. Absolutely.
Are you kidding me? So did you eat it?
If you can believe that.
No, did you eat it? Like, was it good?
I ate it because I was 12, 13, 14 years old and I hadn't eaten all day and it's noon. So I did eat it. I wouldn't say it was necessarily good, like most school lunches, I suppose, as you get older.
Yeah.
I can't imagine eating any of that stuff anymore, but I did eat it, and it was serviceable. I'm still here, 10 years after 9 years after graduating high school, so it was okay. It was average at best, probably.
Did you eat them separately? Did you put them together? Did you dip it? What are we doing here?
Absolutely not. I did not eat them together. I did not dip it. They were separate entities on the lunch tray.
All right. I'm wondering if it were good. Like, and no offense to the fine people at Mercer County in the school lunches and cafeteria, but like if you had a really good pot of spaghetti of chili, and you had like some really good cinnamon rolls together, I bet it'd be decent if you think about it.
Yeah, it would be. And like I said, I'm sure I'm being, a little unfair, and maybe my memory is a little hazy on this.
There's a lunch lady somewhere watching this with a tear coming down her eyes right now. Remembering little Ty coming up.
I wouldn't blame the hardworking, lunch staff in the Mercer County District. More so is, I don't know, man. It's hard to feed all those kids. I mean, we were a high school of about probably 400 when I was in school. I mean, pumping out the chili and the cinnamon rolls. Oh my gosh.
I've never heard of it. Next week, I'm going to contact not Ty Taylor, you're Ty Taylor. Julian Vandervelde. He's my food expert. I think we're going to give it a shot. I think we're going to do a little segment and try it, because I've had some people from Central Iowa reach out saying you're crazy, you got to try it, all that kind of stuff. So before I let you go, we got the View from the West Instant Reacts on Friday. I know that you've been invited. I don't know if you've been invited. Are you able to join us after your game with Orion and Rockridge?
I'm hoping to be able to. I haven't got an official invite, though, from Mr. Armstrong, so I guess I'll wait to see if I'm a big enough deal this week to be on or not. I feel like I really want to be there if Riverdale wins, because I want to see what it looks like when Brian Stocking joins, because he always joins a little bit later because he's got, big responsibilities on TV and he's a big celebrity and everything. But I want to see like if he still has a shirt on when he joins, if they've won, if he still has his hair on his head, where he's at. Is he going to be in like a bar in Port Byron going crazy, or what's going on? So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Those visuals are enough to make me never want to eat again, more or less, chili and cinnamon rolls. And then let everybody know, a lot of people around the TRAC conference love this segment. I really mean it. I'm not trying to be a smart ass like I normally am, but like I've gotten a bunch of great feedback. They love Ty Taylor on Wednesdays. I know usually it's now on Thursday this week, but I appreciate your flexibility. Talk about what you guys have on WRMJ this week, and you're busy. You got 2 games this week.
Yeah, we got 3 broadcasts across 2 days. So we have Orion Rockridge on Friday night, Sherrard Monmouth Roseville Friday, and then Saturday afternoon we get to make the trip to Sterling and Roscoe Eads Stadium to see Mercer County take on the Newman Central Catholic Comets. Chicken George at Candlelight Inn. I'm ready, man.
Are you doing it?
Now a lot of the times Newman actually has it in the press box. I'm hoping that is something that is going to be a thing on Saturday afternoon. If not, I'll probably be like, I don't know, during a commercial break in the fourth quarter, making a takeout order potentially.
See, a few years ago, we were there. My son and I were going up, my oldest, and he's like, Dad, I've never done Chicken George. So we made the mistake of going there ahead of time, getting lunch, and then we go over to the stadium and we go up to the press box, and there's Chicken George sitting right there. And Charlie just does a double take. I'm like, dude, we just hammered some. Like, we can't continue to eat. It's good, though. Have you had it?
Yeah, so there's one in Clinton, Iowa, and I've got family in Fulton. My uncle Pat Lower is the football coach there, so we've frequented the Clinton one. I think I've been to all 3. I've hit the holy trinity of the Candlelight Inns in Rock Falls, Sterling, and Clinton, Iowa. So I'm a big fan of the Chicken George, and that is going to be part of my Saturday for sure.
I love it.
If you ever go to Sterling, people in the Three Rivers, man, when you play on the road at Newman, you got to stop by there 100%.
I love it. A good plug for Candlelight Inn, not a sponsor of Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, but could be a sponsor if they'd like to be a sponsor of Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Ty, I appreciate you. We'll talk to you again next week. I'll talk to you on Friday if Greg ever gives you the invite.
Hope to talk to you Friday, and I hope Stocking is having a good night Friday night.
I love it. We'll talk to you soon. Ty Taylor from WRMJ joining us for his weekly segment, not on a Wednesday like normally, but on a Thursday. Patience is a virtue for all you Three Rivers fans out there as well. We got more to get to. Coming up, we'll talk a little bit about the game that's getting ready to start here in a couple hours. A 4:08 start for the Cubs. A win and you're in, a loser goes home, all the cliches you want to put on it. A big game for the Cubs at Wrigley Field. Talk a little bit about that and wrap things up right after this. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo on a Thursday. We'll be right back.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Thursday, October 2nd. It's been another fun show here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. I want to thank JoshSash, the assistant coach, one of the assistant coaches for Ben McCullum at the University of Iowa. Of course, Josh, the older brother of Tyler Sash as well. So great to catch up with him about, Iowa basketball is right around the corner. This staff, Ben McCullum, have done a great job reaching out to the fans. We mentioned yesterday on the show, and I wanted to talk a little more about it today. The Iowa women have sold out once again, which is amazing. There'll be some student tickets, some single game tickets, I think maybe going on sale eventually, but that's where Iowa men's basketball wants to get back to. And the staff has done a great job reaching out to the fan base in person, like Coach Sash said, just like going around to different events and student sections and things like that, and talking and getting to know fans and all that. And they've done a great job with it. So, and I was thinking about it after the interview. Drake was good last year. They were really good. And 6 of those players, including their most important three players, coming over to the University of Iowa to have a great foundation. Then you add Fulgaris, and you add Hausen, and you add Cooper Koch and some other parts here and there. I do think Iowa basketball is going to be good this year. I don't know how good yet. That's something that Tom Kakert and I and others have to maybe discuss over the next month. But I think it's going to be a good basketball team. So I'm excited about that. Great to have Josh on the show once again. If you missed it, go back and check it out, because well worth the listen, and not because of me by any stretch, because of Josh. Jim Mattson was here talking Illini football and basketball. It's Illini Basketball Media Day today down in Champaign. So great to get his thoughts on I loved what he said. What did he say? He said his budget allows him to go to Galesburg, maybe Moline. He hasn't been to Europe to see these guys play. And he's got a great point, because when Illinois' roster was based on Illinois high school talent, he'd seen a lot of them. I had seen a lot of them. And that's obviously not the case now. So an intriguing basketball team in Illinois, a talented one. We'll kind of see where things go. Media Day today for the Illini. Follow Jim Mattson, HOI Jim, something like that. I should find it out. Follow him on social media, get all his stuff, because he'll do a great job, as always, kind of keeping everyone up to date. Yeah, HOI Jim. So follow that on social media and check out the Illini stuff. And, of course, we previewed Purdue coming up this week, that big rivalry game that I get annoyed by because it should be Iowa, Illinois every year. But check out Jim if you missed that, if you're an Illini fan. Also, our weekly segment with Ty Taylor, a day late, but Ty talking track football. Obviously, a great week last week, week 5. Week 6 should be intriguing as always. So go check out him as well. And then, of course, a lot more to get to when it comes to postseason baseball. Postseason baseball and do or die, win or go home, backs against the wall. All those cliches take shape today for the Cubs. They host the Padres in a deciding Game 3 at Wrigley Field. The game's at 4 o'clock, which is awesome because I can let my kids watch it. Actually, they have events to do and stuff and practices, but they'll get to see a lot more of it now than at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They wanted me to get them out of school early, which, boy, I was tempted, but good news, 4 o'clock. Cubs, Padres, of course. Cubs winning game 1, 3-1. They lost yesterday, 3-0. They turned to Talion to pitch. He's been good this year, especially late in the second half. A friendly face, a familiar face, Yu Darvish, will take the mound for the Padres. Cubs got to hit the baseball. They got to figure out a way to get up early because that bullpen for San Diego is so dang good. So quick start, fast start, early start for the Cubs. Important, I think, today at Wrigley Field. See if they can move on and punch their ticket to a series with the Brewers coming up after this. So also 2 other Game 3s, deciding Game 3s. It's the Tigers and Guardians in Cleveland. I think that's 2 o'clock. And then tonight, one of baseball's best rivalries, the Red Sox and the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. Went to both stadiums this summer. Went to Fenway and then went to Yankee Stadium. So kind of cool to see those two going head to head. Winner take all, great atmosphere, electric environment at Yankee Stadium last night. So that'll be the primetime game tonight. And we'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Also tomorrow, we'll be on the road, OTA on the road, like we are every Friday. We'll be at Browning Field, Moline High School, kind of previewing Moline, Rock Island, a great rivalry, getting you set for everything you need for high school football. Week 5 on the Iowa side, and then, of course, on the Illinois side as well. Greg and Mitch will join me for their segment on Fridays as well. It'll be a bunch of fun. Mike Morrissey will be along. We'll do a cool segment with the Student Hunger Drive. The Student Hunger Drive off and running. I was part of the kickoff party on Monday night. Had a blast. Thank you to Jana Gallagher and my former partner in crime, Corey Kuffler, for allowing me to take part in the kickoff party on Monday. So we'll have something with that tomorrow as well, and a bunch more. So a lot to get to tomorrow on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. A reminder, get to my social media, WQAD Matt Randazzo for Facebook. And then, of course, Twitter is at Matt Randazzo, and get signed up for Nest Guess. It's simple. It's easy. I think there's 5 college games, all the NFL games. You click, you pick, no spreads, nothing like that. Each weekly winner wins an outstanding prize from Hungry Hobo. Hungry Hobo, an awesome sponsor. Not just Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, but also the Nest Guess contest as well. So make sure you get yours filled out. We'll be bugging and pumping you with all that information over the next couple days. But the entries continue to go up and up, and we love to see that. So thank you guys for participating in that. And if you haven't, get to it, do it. Shame on you for not doing it already. All those kind of things as well. So a fun Thursday and a fun week here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. If you missed anything, go check it out. Pat Anger on Monday was a bunch of fun. We've had JoshSash, we've had Tim DeWhite, we've had Jeremy Adolphson. The list goes on and on. We've had a fun week here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, and we said we're just getting warmed up. It's funny because I almost forget who's been on. Cad Prince was on, Jeremy Adolphson, John Marks, Pat Anger, Jake Brend, Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears. That was fun. Tony Stewart and Tony Grip, a couple great coaches in the area. Tim DeWhite, Kyle Huseman yesterday was integral and fantastic when it comes to the big recruiting news for the women's basketball team as well at the University of Iowa. So great week of shows. Go to YouTube, go check out the channel, Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Subscribe, check out all the shows there on an X or on the audio podcasting platforms as well. It's been a lot of fun, and I thank everyone for their support and watching and listening and all that kind of stuff. But we're not done this week. One more show tomorrow. Enjoy your Thursday. We'll see you live from Browning Field tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Have a great Thursday.